Hi, I am John T. Lee, chemistry and physics teacher at Calvin Coolidge High School in Washington, D.C. I am extremely happy that education is focusing on the social and emotional aspect of the scholar and how a child's social and emotional well-being impacts their learning. I did not know where to turn for more information on SEL, and the district did not provide many professional developments. I want to say thank you so much, and to Harmony SEL and Inspired Teaching and Learning. The free webinars provided a great foundation and practical advice on how to implement great SEL strategies. I transformed my kitchen into a science lab classroom for my students. This new classroom allows students to see how science is applied in their everyday lives by using regular items from their pantry. To ensure the kitchen was familiar, I decorated it with materials from their in-person classroom. The more students are familiar with their environment, the less anxiety they will have, and the more learning will occur. The transformation resulted in the science content being more accessible and engaging for all students. I got the idea to transform my kitchen into a laboratory from watching the webinar Strategies for Supporting Diverse Learners in a Digital World webinar. There is no better way to build resilience in students than using effective SEL strategies. Teachers teach the whole child, not just the brain of the child. We must pour into the child's social emotional learning, and during a pandemic, that is crucial because we are not in the scholar's presence. It is easier to address social emotional learning items in person than it is virtually because I can address things as they come up. So once every 2 weeks, I teach a social emotional lesson that included using active listening, building rapport with teachers, taking effective notes, understanding mindsets, and setting life goals. Teaching these skills resulted in higher work completion and higher accuracy. I got the idea to teach content as well as SEL strategies by watching the Supporting the Whole Child in a Time of Crisis webinar. Teaching the students online is a challenge because you cannot read their body language or read their facial expressions. In essence, I don't know how my students are doing or feeling. So I created an emotional circle. Students circle anonymously how they're feeling at the beginning of the class. As students want to share out why they circled an emotion, we talk about it as a class. If I see that students are mainly circling items in the positive column, I use that data to keep the positive energy up during class. If I see where students are not doing well, I adjust the class lesson and to make it a more positive experience. If students are consistently circling negative emotions, I will refer them to the mental health team. This exercise gives the students the confidence to speak up. Addressing their emotions in the beginning allows them to fully engage in the content. I got this idea by watching Permission to Feel: Unlocking the Power of Emotions to help our students, to help our kids, ourselves, and society thrive webinar. This academic year, we started school virtually, and I realized that I needed to form a relationship with my students. So I did a home visit and delivered school supplies to all my students, including an Amazon Prime tablet for the students to keep forever. I used the money I made during summer school, meeting my students and their families and their dog and their plant, allowed me to form a personal relationship with the scholars. This has resulted in higher seat attendance compared to previous years. My attendance rate is close to 100%. I also purchased the supplies to ensure that my students are day one ready for school. There's a difference between assessing and grading. Grading is testing the content, but assessing is seeing what the student has learned. I use that data to drive my instruction and determine what academic interventions I need to implement. I am more interested in pushing my students towards mastery because one exam should not determine a scholar's success in the course. If the scholar has shown mastery during classwork and homework, I strongly take that into consideration when determining their grade. I use the State of the Organization Address webinar on how I should properly assess students and not grade them. I am a teacher living with a speech impediment. I talk for a living and I stutter. My students don't laugh or make jokes. It is as if it didn't even happen. One day, a student who was not my student saw me stuttering while teaching, and he took note that no one laughed. He told another teacher that he feels anything is possible because he lives with a severe speech impediment. He now has hope. This has shown me that showing up authentically is essential for students to learn, grow, and develop, as well as respect each other. Research has shown that students benefit from having a set of diverse teachers. Currently, Black male educators represent 2% of the entire teaching force in the United States. This is why I do what I do, to show students that anything is possible with a good education, regardless of their social, racial, economic status. They can succeed. I show up so my students can show up. I use the EI over IQ, emotional intelligence, and the Resilient Teacher webinar to learn how to show up for my students so they will be able to authentically show up. And this has created a very respectful, inclusive, engaging environment.